So, hey everyone, welcome to the Hitchhiker's Way podcast. And this podcast, we discuss about the founders' struggles on achieving product market fit and the unconventional strategies they use to get to product market fit. So, in this episode, we have the founder of Cyvatar. He is Corey White. So, hey Corey, how's it going?
It's going really well. Thank you for having me. This is exciting.
Yes, I'm super pumped up to talk to you and learn a lot from you. So, what are you actually working on, Cyvatar? And can you explain what Cyvatar does in a nutshell?
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty interesting that I'm just going to throw some stats out there that 99% of all businesses out there are small to medium-sized businesses. And then 98% of them are the hacks that happen against these small to medium-sized businesses. They are preventable, yet the number of successful hacks goes up about 30% year over year. And we're expecting the cybercrime cost of cybercrime to increase to 10 trillion by 2025. So you think about it, like you would think there'd be all kinds of businesses out there out to solve this problem. But in actuality, there's not, because most large cybersecurity companies, they don't want to sell to small to medium-sized businesses because they're going to have a bunch of small deals, and that just doesn't move the needle for them. So it's not that makes sense for the business to go after them. But it's a completely underserved market. No one wants to serve the 99%. And so maybe I'm a little crazy, but at the end of the day, like, I'll take that challenge, figure that out. I'll go serve that 99% of small and medium-sized companies that aren't served. And so that's simply what Cyvatar does. We are outsourced cyber security that brings enterprise grade cybersecurity to small to medium-sized businesses, locks them down, gets them secure, helps them with security questionnaires and compliance, and then gets them cybersecurity insurance. So our customers come to us for all things cybersecurity, and we take care of it for them.
All right, that's really great. And love the crazy part that you told. So, why did you actually choose to solve a problem based on cybersecurity? Were you like always interested on cybersecurity from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started and graduated college in 1995, I was 23 years old, and I was like, I just want to be in computers. So got in computers and literally working for Microsoft, supporting Windows 95 1.0, Explorer 1.0, and Exchange, all the first versions, all that came out. And so literally that's pretty much the start of the internet, because everybody actually had a browser and all that. So once I got into that and then got quickly bored in the support position, then I got into consulting. And next thing I know, I started doing security consulting, putting in firewalls and VPNs and doing penetration testing and incident response. And it's a pretty interesting field. Like, you're not bored in cybersecurity, that's for sure. So from there, it just kept going. So 28 years later, here I am. But what made me start this company and be crazy enough to go out to solve this problem for the 99% of all companies out there, I said, most of my customers over the years, I've worked with them and over again across multiple customer companies, and they've turned into friends. And so I wouldn't sell just a pen test to a friend, say, hey, I'm do your pen test, and then you're magically going to be secure, when I know that's not true. The pen test just tells you what's wrong in a point of time. Okay. And then the next day, about 68 new vulnerabilities are going to come out. And then your environment's going to change, because you got the cloud, internal network, remote network, external networks. So all that changes. And then the pen test you just spent a lot of money for is obsolete. So that didn't solve the problem. And then you have a lot of these products that don't actually stop the attack. They just detect and respond and monitor. And so I spent a ton of time running incident response teams over 20 years. And at the end of the day, when you realize, okay, just responding after my clients and my customers have gotten, hacked, no, that doesn't make any sense either. Why don't I know how to solve these problems? Why don't I build a company that's proactive and preventative to solve the problem? So I just want to be about part of the solution and solve problems for our customers.
That's awesome. So, like, you had that earlier moment in your business, right? When you found out that your problem that you found to solve is actually something that people would pay for and people want your service. How did you validate that idea? Can you really illuminate me
Yeah,
on that?
yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that I had a thesis on this, but no one was doing what we were doing. And so
Mm.
literally it was me and a couple contractors, and I had a Swiss Army knife admin person that could do anything, marketing, anything. She was amazing. So that was it, two-person company. But we sold a $530,000 deal and sold nine
Wow.
solutions. Yeah. And so, and then it was me and a couple of contractors. We went and we implemented it and got them locked down and secure in 3 months. Okay. So you think about me because they had nothing in place. And most small to medium-sized businesses have nothing in place, but they need to get a SOC 2 and they need to get a CMMC certification. And so we went in and vulnerability management, multi-factor, endpoint, IT asset management, cloud management, security awareness training. So we implemented all of that and got them into a secure lockdown state. They got SOC 2 compliant. Now they're ready to get CMMC compliant, all ready to go. And it wasn't that hard. But here's the key to it. This is what's interesting. Most people that have been in the industry a long time, if it were 10 years ago, it'd be harder because cloud and API weren't as prevalent. And so now everything is cloud manageable. So you don't need to go on site. You just got to go and configure it. You can remotely do all these things. So the days of having to go into a data center and do things on site have gone away. So we leverage the cloud manageability of these products and make sure that those are the ones we choose. And on top of that, we choose enterprise grade products that can grow and scale and integrate. So once I did that, I was like, oh shit, this is gonna work. And I had to go and I had to go and
That aha
get
moment, right?
that's the aha moment. And I was like, somebody's gonna copy this idea. I need to go get some investment so that I can really scale it and build it out. And that's when I decided to get a venture capitalist investment. I did 2 rounds of it because initially I was completely against it. I was not going to do that. And so I did 2 rounds. Now we're a profit first organization. We've gotten through the bad economy. It's now we're a profit first organization, and the business will be profitable literally in a few months. So, I've gone through that whole transition. I do believe that, getting VC funding, you got to know what you're getting into. And you got to understand it's a roller coaster that you can ride it and do really, really well if all the conditions are right. But if the conditions change, then you got to know when to jump off and do it yourself.
Yeah, I've just heard about this with other founders. I've just read in their interviews that through the conventional VC way, if things get along on your way, it's like extreme euphoria for you. Everything works out, and straight away you go into rounds and rounds of funding, and then straight to IPO. That's like really good, right? But if things
Yeah.
doesn't turn out that way, it's going to be extremely bizarre and really difficult. So
Yes.
I presume that you raised about 3 million in seed, right?
3 million, then another nine, so a total of 12 million. Yeah.
So how did the funding process actually go? How was your pitch? How did you pitch your idea properly? Is there any advice that you could give to other founders who are pitching their ideas?
Yeah, there are whole books written on that. I think there's some stats. I heard multiple stats, and depending on which one you want. One person was saying you gotta talk to between 300 to 500 investors before you find the right one. I mean, it's a process. Do not think it's gonna go quickly. And the goal is when you start a company, I really think is your first time you do it, you just don't expect it to be this perfect scenario because it's a first time founder versus a second or third time founder. It's just different. And investment comes much easier to, the second or third time founder than the first time founder. And so, unfortunately, when you're a first time founder, you got to get everything right. But you also got to hopefully, to your point earlier, the economic conditions changed like halfway through, our business, where originally VCs were throwing money everywhere to any and everybody, and then it went to where they're not. investing almost anything. And so at that point, what do most founders do? If you didn't grow your business enough, if you don't have enough customers, enough revenue coming in, then you're upside down. Like there are companies with 50 million in VC funding, but still in like 100, there's a million in sales. You're never going to catch up. Yeah. So that's the challenge. You just got to be aware of that. So yeah.
So that's finished. You got your VC fund, and before that, you have built your MVP, right? How did the process look like? What was your first MVP looked like, and what kind of feedback that you got from customers, and how did you improve your product even more for your
Yeah. I
first
think
set
that's
of customers?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fantastic question. So our first customers, we got them without having a product or a platform at all. We just
Wow.
sold value. Yeah, sold value and outcomes. Because think about it, if a company needs a cybersecurity program, and then we can take them from zero to 100% cybersecurity program in 3 months, and there's no platform, there's no automation, none of that is there, but we got all of it operationalized in that amount of time. That's tremendous value. Okay. And I've done that with multiple companies before our platform even was started. But then once we did get our initial funding, we use that platform to build reporting and have API connections and visibility, all that in there. But I don't want people to think that, oh, just having pretty pictures in a platform and with visibility is everything. No, the outcome is actually being secure. And then also being able to grow their businesses. If you're a small, medium-sized business, you want to be able to answer these security questionnaires and compliance requirements and get insurance, all those things. And those can all be done without our platform. But we did have a very good MVP that was done really in a few months. We used a fantastic company based in LA called Hello Iconic. I fully endorse everything that around those guys. They were fantastic for us.
All right. So there's this another question that I really wanted to ask. How did the early days of Cyvatar look like, and what were you working on in those early days? The starting point is the thing that which most people struggle with, right? And there must have been a point in your startup life when you wanted to give up, but you just kept going on. And Cyvatar must have seen a lot of dips in the starting point, I presume. So, can you explain any situation like that? Can you give an example of what happened at that point and how did you get out of it? And what struggles did you face at that time?
I'll say, let me explain it to you this way. Every
Yeah.
single day, there are highs and lows every day. Okay. And there definitely were some points when the economy changed last year, and you think about, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to get out of this? You don't necessarily see the next steps. So I went on Amazon and I did a search for signs that say never give up. Okay. I put one in my office. I have one kind of literally right next to me that says it. And wherever I'm at, I see it every single day. And so I was like, all right, we're not giving up. There were people saying, well, no one's funding any more companies, Corey. You're not going to get that next round. You're going to go out of business. It's like, okay, all right. I just never gave up, and I always found a way. And so that's a choice that you have to make. And I think at the end of the day, if you're a founder out there, you can't have a plan B, because if you're like, oh, this doesn't work out, I'll go do this. No, there's no going back. There's nothing to go back to. And so as long as you have that mindset, you can only go forward, then you're not going to give up. As long as you have a good idea. If you got a crappy idea, then I say, yeah, stop and start something else. But when you know you've got something, when you've got, you get 99% of all the small businesses out there not being served, and we serve that market, we've got something. Okay. So there's no need to give up. There's huge opportunity out there for us. And I think that's what all founders, entrepreneurs, I think it's also a life lesson. And one of my favorite quotes, that a lot of people are starting to say now, but I heard it in the last few years and I really, really embraced it while I was just going through some of these challenges is, nothing happens against you. Everything happens for you. Okay. I recently even heard Jay-Z quoting that, in one of his interviews. But at the end of the day, people think, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Well, it's probably happening to you because it's something you need to learn, something you need to go through and experience. And what this also does for founders is you go through some things, it makes you resilient. And so I can happily say very little, if anything, frightens me. Like I'm just not afraid. I'm like, oh, okay, this happened. All right, we'll figure it out. No problem.
I think a startup life can like teach you to be a better person in actual life. Like you go through a lot of shitty situations, but and you learn to be resilient, and your mental health becomes a stone at that point. And whatever happens in your personal life, you're able to handle it kind of well, and you will always find a way there. That's really great. That must have been hard when people were like telling you that venture capital is not going to work for Cyvatar. So the next question that I have is, this is one of the most interesting question. Hitting for the first million is like the most hardest thing that any founder can achieve in their startup, right? So, what do you think is some of the pivotal points in your journey that has actually helped you achieve that? What common strategies that other companies could also use?
Yeah, it's interesting. I was trying to find a nicer way to say hitting the first million wasn't actually that hard for us. I remember hitting, the first million, the second million, even the third million, and we were, just going, on a really breakneck pace. Then that's when the economy changed, and that's something that I don't think anybody anticipated to come as hard as it was. I heard people say, "Hey, it may come," but that's what I think the real challenge is. You're gonna hit inflection points. So, whether getting to that first million or above three at the end of the day, you have to figure out, okay, what used to work no longer works. So, what do I have to do differently to crank up that engine and go again? So there's a lot of stop starts. There's different levels, and if you research inflection points, it's a pretty known thing. You know, getting to that first million is a challenge. Getting that 5 million is a challenge. 10 million, but because every time you get there, your organization grows. Everything you used to do breaks, and you got to start over again and rebuild those things. Because what works for a $1 million company is not the same as a $10 million company. So you got to keep doing it over and over again, and you just got to get used to and accepting that that's what's going to happen.
Iterations will always be there, right?
Yeah.
So I already heard about how you got your first customer. You already told in one of the questions that I asked. But did you use some kind of strategy, or did you have some way on getting your first set of customers, like beta customers? How did you market your service in the beginning?
Yeah, for our first customers, luckily I'd been just in the industry for a long time. So a lot of people knew of me. And so we used a bunch of LinkedIn webinars and just every new solution we rolled out, we partnered with those technology partners. We did webinars and got pretty good attention. And what's great about doing those type of things, right in the middle of it, the pandemic hit. And so we had, God, we called them Sci Live events at noon and brought in a DJ, and that's how we announced new solutions and did interviews and it sponsored one for every single month. They one for Black History Month and Asian American Month, and brought in influential people for each one of those, and had a good series, just informative to get the word out. So we had really good attendance because everybody's stuck at home anyway. And so it worked really well. So that helped us. So just innovative things to get the word out that we exist and letting everyone know what we do.
All right, that's really awesome. And was there any entrepreneur in the beginning that really inspired you? What kind of impact that the person made on you?
There were so many, and what I leveraged them is really my network and some of the executives that I worked with in the past. And so I added all them to my advisory board, and they were there and so supportive, just right there with me, even through the really hard times. I called them up and I was like, wow, these folks are family, really, really helping and supporting and just talking to me and guiding me through it when I needed it. That was game changing for me. I read a ton of books. I think one of the ones that helped me really build this business is a book called Bold, Bold, by Peter Diamandis. And it really just gave me the guts to be bold enough to go out and do this. And yeah, I'm very much a why not kind of guy. Like, why wouldn't I do this now? Like, what would I be doing otherwise? Just working for someone else and making their dreams come true. I mean, life is way too short to not take your chance, not to take your shots. I'd rather take a shot and lose and miss than to not do anything.
Yeah, and that's actually uh, what a founder thinks from the beginning. Like there's a spark from the beginning, right? Before even they start their business, they hate working for someone, and then they think of it like a boring job, and they suddenly quit and start out something. That's mostly how it goes. So, was there
Yeah.
any failed projects that you did before even starting the company? And what insights did you learn from there?
Yeah. I mean, I'll just talk about failure in general. I fail every day. I'm failing something, right? But I have a thing. Like it's okay to fail once, maybe twice. Don't make the same mistake over and over again. I think that's ridiculous. But failing is a process. Like building Cyvatar is a group of failures over and over and over again. But you fail to succeed. Like you literally are failing up. If I always think, oh, I failed, I'm never gonna try anything else again, that's ridiculous. I mean, there's so many examples, but you take Thomas Edison, the light bulb. I mean, he failed 1,000 times before we actually got electricity working, but he kept on trying. So I think there's just a big misconception with failure. I don't think anybody ever fails. Like you do stuff that it doesn't work initially, then you try something else until it works. You keep on going. It's just a process. It's not the end.
Did you do some projects before that actually didn't gain traction before starting the company?
I mean, yes and no. Like, I mean, I'll give you some things within the company. Like when we first built our initial pricing model, I had no idea how to price this. No one was doing it. There's no one to copy. And not that I wanted to copy anybody, was I had to figure it out. I literally had to get some interns that grew up with subscriptions. It's like how you do subscription pricing? How you make that work? And the old way of doing it, charging one amount for service, another amount for product, which I'm so used to, that was foreign to these interns. Subscriptions was all they knew. So they're like, well, just do it like this, and this. And then that was the first, version of our pricing. Then after that, I had some numbers. We had sold enough deals, and I realized, okay, let's model these numbers and see where our margin is. We remodeled it and figured out the pricing could be modified a bit, made those changes, then it got better. And so we're like on the third or fourth iteration on pricing. So you could say, hey, we failed the first three times, but that's not how I
We,
see it.
you did not
Yeah,
actually fail. You just
yeah,
learned new things.
just learn new things. Exactly.
So here's the last question. What kind of insight that you've gained from your founder life that you would give to any early stage founder who are going through a lot of pain and want to give up?
Yeah, circling back. Um, Never give up unless it makes sense to give up and pivot. It depends on what your business is doing. Anything that one individual can say to another individual and say this is that point. But what you can say is what I do is I do a lot of meditation. And so through meditating and connecting, with myself and higher self and so forth, at the end of the day, that guides me because there's so much in life that sends you these signals and sends you, directions. that we mostly ignore, I call them synchronicities, that's what guides me. That's when I know what to do next. I just ask and then I receive.
All right. Corey, it's been really great to have you in this podcast. Thanks for coming up. And that's the end. Soon we'll have another guest coming up. So, bye for now.
Thank you. Okay, bye.